I watched Mark Davidson from across his mahogany desk, keeping my expression carefully neutral as he delivered the news with barely concealed satisfaction. His words hung in the air between us. We're reorganizing the department, and unfortunately, your position will be eliminated as of next month. I see, I replied calmly, watching his smile widen. But before you go, he continued, leaning back comfortably in his leather chair, you'll need to train your replacement. Jennifer starts tomorrow. I expect you to show her everything she needs to know about managing our marketing division. Our marketing division. The irony of those words almost made me laugh. If only he knew. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for 12 years, I have been the director of marketing for Davidson Tech Solutions. Or at least, that's what everyone thinks. The truth is far more interesting. 3 months ago, I secretly purchased the entire company through a holding firm I had built over the years. Mark had no idea that MKS Venture, the entity that now owned Davidson Tech, was, in fact, named for my initials, Sarah Catherine Mitchell. Of course, I replied, keeping my voice level. I'll make sure Jennifer learns everything she needs. Mark nodded, clearly pleased with my compliant response. Good. I knew you'd be professional about this. A lot of people get emotional when they're let go. My mind drifted to the stack of documents waiting in my lawyer's office, ready to be filed first thing in the morning. Yes, I said, emotions can certainly get in the way of business decisions. Walking back to my office, I couldn't help but reflect on my journey. 12 years ago, I had started at Davidson Tech as a junior marketing assistant. Back then, the company was run by Robert Davidson, Mark's father, a brilliant businessman who saw potential in everyone, regardless of their gender or background. Under Robert's leadership, I thrived. He mentored me, challenged me, and helped me grow from an eager rookie into a seasoned professional. When he promoted me to marketing director 7 years ago, he told me something I'd never forget. Sarah, success isn't just about making money. It's about building something that matters. But 3 years ago, Robert passed away suddenly, leaving the company to his son. Mark immediately began dismantling everything his father had built. The inclusive culture, the focus on innovation, the investment in employees. It was all replaced by a toxic environment of favoritism and short-term profit chasing. I watched talented people get pushed aside, replaced by Mark's drinking buddies and golf partners. The company's reputation began to suffer. Our market share plummeted, and our best clients started looking elsewhere. That's when I started buying stock. At first, it was just a small investment, a few shares purchased through my personal account. But as Mark's mismanagement continued, more and more shareholders began to sell. I created MKS Venture as a holding company and started acquiring larger blocks of shares, always staying just below the threshold that required public disclosure. 3 months ago, when a major institutional investor decided to sell its entire stake, I saw my chance. Through a complex series of transactions orchestrated by my lawyer, James Shin, MKS Venture acquired a majority stake in Davidson Tech Solutions, and Mark still had no idea. So, he still doesn't suspect a thing? Maya, my best friend and the company's HR director, asked later that afternoon. She was one of only 3 people who knew the truth about MKS Venture. I shook my head, straightening a few files on my desk. Not a clue. He's too busy congratulating himself for poaching Jennifer from our biggest competitor. Maya snorted. The competitor? The one that's been bleeding market share for 2 years? The one that's about to be investigated for financial irregularities? The very same, I said with a smile, thinking of all the intelligence I'd gathered on Jennifer and her former employer. Mark thinks he's making a power move. He has no idea what's really going on. When are you going to tell him? Maya asked. Tomorrow morning. James is filing the papers at the start of business. Then we're calling an emergency board meeting. I paused, glancing at the photo on my desk. Robert Davidson and me at the company's 10th anniversary party. It's time to set things right. Maya nodded, understanding in her eyes. Robert would be proud of you. You know, you're not just saving his company, you're making it better. I felt my eyes sting, but I pushed the emotion down. There would be time for tears later. Right now, I had work to do. The next morning, I arrived early. Jennifer was already waiting in the lobby, dressed in an expensive power suit that screamed corporate climber. Her resume looked impressive at a glance, but I knew better. I had done my research. Jennifer, I greeted her warmly. Welcome to Davidson Tech. I'll be showing you the ropes over the next few weeks. She barely concealed a condescending smirk as she looked me up and down. That's very kind of you. Mark told me all about the changes he's planning to implement. I'll bet he did, I thought, leading her to my office. Well, why don't we start with our current marketing strategy? I'm sure you'll find it instructive. For the next 2 hours, I walked her through our campaigns, client relationships, and upcoming projects. Jennifer interrupted frequently, making suggestions that revealed her complete lack of understanding of our industry or market position. These loyalty strategies seem very outdated, she said, waving a dismissive hand at a presentation I designed. In my experience, aggressive acquisition is far more effective than maintaining existing relationships. I made a note on my pad. Her attitude confirmed everything my research had uncovered about her former employer's troubles. At 10 o'clock, my phone buzzed. A text from James. Papers filed. Board notified. Meeting at 11. Jennifer, I said, standing up. I'm afraid we'll have to cut this training short this morning. I have an emergency meeting with the board. She looked surprised. A board meeting? Mark didn't mention one. No, I replied, smiling. I suppose he wouldn't have known. I left her in my office and walked her to the main conference room. Mark was already there, his face red with anger as he spoke into his phone. What do you mean, an emergency meeting? I'm the CEO. I have to approve all board meetings. He looked up as I entered, covering the receiver with his hand. Sarah, what are you doing in here? This is an executive meeting. I know, I said calmly, taking the seat at the head of the table. That's why I'm here. Before he could respond, the other board members began to file in. I recognized most of them as Robert's old guard, people Mark had steadily sidelined over the past 3 years. James Shin was the last to arrive, carrying a thick portfolio of documents. He gave me a subtle nod as he took his seat. What is going on here? Mark demanded, looking around the room, clearly flustered. I did not authorize this meeting. No, I said, rising to my feet. I did. The room fell silent as James began distributing the documents to the board members. 3 months ago, I continued, my voice firm, MKS Venture acquired a majority stake in Davidson Tech Solutions. As of this morning, that acquisition is complete and has been duly filed with the SEC. The color drained from Mark's face. MKS Venture. But who? It's my company, I finished for him, named for my initials, Sarah Catherine Mitchell. The board members were now scanning the documents, their murmurs of surprise and understanding filling the room. That's impossible, Mark stammered. You're just a marketing director. You don't have the kind of money to buy a company this size. I thought of the years of careful investing, the long nights studying financial reports, the strategic planning that had led to this exact moment. Actually, Mark, I can, and I did. I opened my own copy of the documents. Now, shall we discuss the future of Davidson Tech Solutions? The look on his face was everything I had imagined, a mixture of shock, rage, and dawning comprehension. But this wasn't about revenge. It was for something much more important. I pulled an old photograph of Robert Davidson from my folder and placed it on the table. Your father built this company on principles of innovation, integrity, and respect for every single employee. It's time we return to those values. Mark shot to his feet, his chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. I'm having my lawyers look into this immediately. There's no way this takeover is legal. James Shin cleared his throat. I assure you, Mr. Davidson, everything is perfectly legal. I personally oversaw every transaction. Would you care to see the documents tracking how Ms. Mitchell acquired the shares? I watched as James methodically laid out the paper trail. Every stock purchase, every filing, every legal document that proved MKS Ventures' legitimate acquisition of Davidson Tech Solutions. As you can see, James continued in a professionally neutral tone, Ms. Mitchell now controls 51% of the company's shares. The board has been convened today to vote on new leadership. Mark's face contorted with rage. You little... Choose your next words very carefully, I cut in, my voice cold as ice. The board is watching, and they were. Every member, alert, documents in hand, was observing the drama unfold. Many had worked with Robert and had seen the company's decline under Mark's leadership. Members of the board, I said, rising to address them directly. For 3 years, we have watched this company lose market share, lose valuable employees, and most importantly, lose its identity. The culture of innovation and integrity that Robert Davidson built has been systematically dismantled. I began distributing another set of documents, charts showing the company's declining performance under Mark. Our profit margins have dropped 40% in 3 years. We've lost 12 major clients. Staff turnover is at an all-time high. But more than that, we've lost our way. The board members nodded as they reviewed the figures. They had seen the decline, even if they had been powerless to stop it. This isn't just about numbers, I continued. It's about who we are as a company. Robert Davidson wanted to build something that mattered. Spare us the sentimental garbage, Mark spat. Business is about profit, not your damn feelings for my father. A board member, Janet Chen, no relation to James, spoke up. Actually, Mark, business is about sustainable growth and strong leadership, both of which we have been lacking lately. Others nodded in agreement. The tide was turning. I move to vote on new leadership, Janet declared firmly. I second the motion, another board member added. Mark looked around, realizing he was losing control. You can't do this. I'm a Davidson. This is my company. No, I replied calmly. It was your father's company. And he knew that leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. The vote was swift and decisive. Within 15 minutes, Mark Davidson was no longer the CEO of Davidson Tech Solutions. Security was called to escort him from the building. his face a mask of fury as he shouted threats of lawsuits and revenge. As the board members filed out of the room, Janet stayed behind. "That couldn't have been easy," she said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "But it was necessary." I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon me. The hard part was just beginning. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. First, there was Jennifer. She had been hired by Mark specifically to replace me, but her contract had not yet been finalized. After a brief conversation where I outlined my concerns about her previous employer's practices, she decided to pursue other opportunities. Then came the task of rebuilding. Maya and I worked late into the nights, reviewing personnel files, identifying the talent that had been sidelined under Mark. "Look at this," Maya said one evening, pulling out a folder. "Thomas Chen, in engineering, passed over for promotion 3 times, despite holding multiple patents and having stellar performance reviews." "Set up a meeting," I replied. "We need people like him in leadership positions." Piece by piece, we began to reshape the company. I reinstated the mentorship program Robert had started. We reopened the innovation lab Mark had shuttered. Most importantly, we started to rebuild the culture that had once made Davidson Tech special. A month after the takeover, I sat in what had been Mark's office, now largely redecorated, reviewing our progress with Maya. "Employee satisfaction scores are up 30%, she reported, "and we've had 3 former employees inquire about coming back." I smiled, thinking of the changes we'd made. The office felt different, more vibrant, more alive. People were no longer afraid to share ideas or raise concerns, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. Mark, true to his word, had his lawyers scrutinize every aspect of the takeover. They found nothing irregular, but the pressure was intense. Then came the rumors he tried to spread, insinuating that the company was unstable under new leadership. We answered the rumors with results. Within 6 months, we had not only stabilized our market position, but we had begun to grow again. The innovation that had been stifled was now flourishing. New products were developed. New clients were signed. A year after the takeover, I stood before the entire company at our annual meeting. The auditorium was packed. We had hired over 100 new employees in the past year. When Robert Davison founded this company, I began, he had a vision, not just to create successful products, but to build something meaningful, a place where innovation and integrity went hand in hand. I paused, looking out at the sea of faces before me. Some had worked under Robert, others were new, but all of them shared the same sense of purpose. For a time, I said, we lost sight of that vision. But today, we are back on course. Our profits are up 45% from last year. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. But more importantly, we are making a difference. I pointed to the screen behind me, displaying our latest project, a collaborative effort between our tech team and local schools, helping to bring STEM education to underprivileged communities. This is what success looks like, I continued. Not just numbers on a spreadsheet, but a real impact on people's lives. After the meeting, Maya joined me in my office as I looked at the old photo of Robert. "He'd be proud, you know," she said softly. I nodded, gently touching the frame. "I hope so. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, taking over the way I did." "Sarah," Maya said firmly, "you didn't just take over. You saved this company. Look at what you've built." She was right. Over the past year, we had done far more than just restore the company. We had made it better. Our technology was more innovative, our culture stronger, our impact greater. The photo on my desk no longer showed just Robert. Next to it was a new picture, taken at our last company picnic. Hundreds of smiling faces, all part of something bigger than themselves. That evening, as I was preparing to leave, I received an unexpected email. It was from Margaret, Robert's widow. Dear Sarah, it read, I've been watching what you've done with the company this year. Robert always said you were special, that you truly understood what Davidson Tech was all about. He was right. Thank you for keeping his dream alive and for making it even better. Gratefully, Margaret. Tears welled in my eyes as I read her words. This was why I had done it. Not for revenge against Mark, not for personal gain, but because some things are worth fighting for. The next morning, I arrived early, as I always did. The office was quiet, but not for long. Soon, it would be buzzing with energy, with ideas, with possibility. Walking to my office, I passed the wall where Robert's old motto was displayed. Success isn't just about making money, it's about building something that matters. I smiled, thinking of how far we had come. Mark thought he was pushing me out, forcing me to train my replacement. Instead, he had inspired me to become so much more. Not just an employee, but a leader. Not just a marketing head, but a visionary. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's proving you were right all along. That integrity, innovation, and respect aren't just pretty words on a wall, but principles worth fighting for. As the office began to fill with employees, I heard the familiar hum of creativity and collaboration. This was Robert Davison's true legacy. Not just a successful company, but a place where people could grow, innovate, and make a difference. And now, it was my legacy too.